Hello everyone, and welcome back. This video is going to be about some criminals that claim to be vampires. You know, kind of upping this channel a little bit in the Halloween spirit. But, some of these are weirdos. Like, seriously, just right off the bat, some of these are weirdos. And, I will make a disclaimer that just because these people claim to be vampires does not mean that they are. And when I say that, I know a lot of people's going to be like, oh, vampires aren't real. Well, in a lot of the goth communities, even in some of the emo communities, and just the vampire community alone, there are people that do follow the vampire tradition. So, it's just like on all those cases where everybody says, oh, it has to be an occult or it has to be a Satanist involved. No, it doesn't. Because the people that is true to their community, and their community is not based on killing and child trafficking and all kinds of stuff like that, that's just something that they do to make it appear as though somebody else was responsible. Or in this case, they're trying to take their crime and say it's because they're a vampire. There is a lot of very well respected vampire communities. So, with that being said, the first one is Tracy Wigington. She was born in 1965. Tracy is a woman from Australia who was accused with 3 others in a murder of a man in 1989. Tracy, her girlfriend Lisa Paczynski, and 2 other women lured a 47-year-old man to a park at night. Tracy proceeded to stab the man 27 times. According to Paczynski, they allegedly did the crime in order to drink his blood, and as a result, Tracy has been dubbed the lesbian vampire killer. Tracy pled guilty and was sentenced to life imprisonment. While in prison, she assaulted a fellow inmate and a prison guard. In 2012, while being on crutches, she was released from prison. The next one is the Vampire Clan, and it is about Justin Farrell, or Roderick Justin Farrell, which was born 3/28 of 1980. The Vampire Clan consisted of teenagers who claimed to be vampires. The group included Howard Scott Anderson, Dana Cooper, Roderick Justin Farrell, and Charity Kesey. The group were companions of a Heather Windorf, whose parents the male teens had murdered. They also burned a V mark on Heather's body. Farrell claimed he was a 500-year-old vampire named Vasago. Farrell, who was convicted of felony murder, burglary, and armed robbery, was sentenced to life without parole. Anderson received the same sentence. The girls received different sentences as they were not at the house when Heather's parents were murdered. Kesey was sentenced to 10.5 years in prison for 2 counts of third-degree murder, robbery with a gun, and or deadly weapon, and burglary armed with weapon or explosives. Cooper was convicted of the same charges as Kesey, but received a prison sentence of 17.5 years. Oh, my dog is seriously going crazy out there. Then there is the Vampire Rapist. He was around from 1948 to 2006. Canada, because there was 2 of them. This one is Canada. Nicknamed the Vampire Rapist, Wayne Bowden known victims include Shirley Audet, Marielle Archambault, Jean Way, and Elizabeth Ann Porteous. The 4 attacks occurred in Canada from 1969 to 1971. Bowden was convicted and imprisoned for his crimes in 1977. He briefly escaped from prison before being recaptured. He died in 2006 from skin cancer. Not sure if that was caused by the sunlight. And around the same time, there was a Florida vampire rapist born in 1946 and died in 2002. John Brennan Crutchley has been nicknamed the Florida Vampire Rapist and was active around the same time as Bowden was in Canada. He was convicted of kidnapping and sexual battery, for which he was sentenced to life imprisonment. Crutchley is a known rapist, but also a suspected serial killer who may have been involved in various disappearances, including the unsolved case concerning sisters Catherine Mary Lyon, age 10, and Sheila Mary Lyon, age 12. And then there is a vampire of Sacramento. He was born in 1950 and died in 1980. Richard Chase drank his victim's blood and was convicted of murder before he committed suicide by overdose of prison doctor-prescribed antidepressants. His first murder was most likely a drive-by shooting, but his later crimes included cannibalism. One of his victims was even 3 months pregnant at the time he fatally shot her 3 times. Various television crime shows have had episodes based on his crimes. He was sentenced to die in the gas chamber, but managed to escape that fate. And the next one is the vampires of Germany. During the 1920s, Germany was dealing with 2 separate vampires. One known as the Vampire of Dusseldorf, Peter Kürten, 1883 to 1931, killed from 9 to 60 people, attempted to murder 7 others, and sexually assaulted an unknown number of people. Possibly even worse was a man known as the Vampire of Hanover, Fritz Haarmann, 1819 to 1925, killed at least 24 to 27 people before he was executed by guillotine at the age of 45. Of the vampire killers of the 20th century, Haarmann has the most confirmed victims. Then, I think everybody's probably heard of Elizabeth Bathory. 8/7/1560 to 8/21/1614. The Blood Countess could be the worst female serial killer of all time, but that is if the legends about her are indeed true. She was alleged to have killed between 80 and 650 people. Her antagonist claims that she started after getting a servant's blood on her and thinking it made her skin look younger. Then she reportedly would shower or bathe in the blood of young peasant girls as some kind of perverse fountain of youth. Some have said she was framed. She was a powerful woman in a misogynist time. She was also a Protestant whose primary political opponents were Catholics. Moreover, a supposed diary of hers has yet to be examined by historians. As such, the truth behind her legend is still not entirely clear. Yet, she continues to be depicted as a vampire killer in popular culture. Then, there is Stephanie Pisty. She blamed her part vampire, part werewolf nature when charged with accessory to murder. She was found guilty of being an accessory to the murder of 16-year-old Jacob Hendershot. The investigators suspect that her involvement in the boy's death stemmed from the vampire cult she belonged to. Josephine Rebecca Smith. Vampire that likes to bite old men. Just before midnight, in front of Hooters restaurant in Florida, a wheelchair-bound 69-year-old man named Milton Ellis awoke to find 22-year-old Josephine on top of him with bloodlust on her mind. She told the elderly man she was a vampire and began to bite him on the face and neck, tearing pieces of his face and lip. Covered in blood, he managed to get away and call the cops. When they arrived, they found the self-proclaimed vampire half naked and covered in blood. Lyle Monroe Bensley, 19. 500-year-old vampire. Lyle broke into the Texas home of a woman and bit her while she slept. As she ran out and called the cops, she heard growling and hissing from her room. The cops went in and found Lyle in his boxers. He claimed to be a 500-year-old vampire that was hungry and needed to feed. Andrew Whiteman. In 2010, Andrew was caught trying to break into a drugstore in Ohio when the cops restrained him in the back seat of their car. He claimed he was a 100-year-old vampire who would live eternally, could smell the blood of the cops, and then he went on to threaten one of the cops and his children. When morning came, he apologized. James P. Riva. When James was 23, he shot and killed his handicapped grandmother while she sat in her wheelchair and then stabbed her several times in the heart. The gun was loaded with gold-painted bullets. He drank the blood that gushed from her wounds and set fire to her house to get rid of the evidence. He claimed to be a 700-year-old vamp who needed to drink her blood, but claimed she was also a vampire and that she fed on him at night while he slept. He was convicted of second-degree murder, arson, assault, and battery. He was sentenced to life in prison on the murder charge and 10 to 20 for the fire. And then, of course, no vampire video would be complete without Vlad the Impaler. 1431 to 1476. As with the Blood Countess, many of the more lurid allegations against Vlad came from a bit later than his lifetime or from potentially biased sources. He is said to be responsible for 40k to 100k deaths. There are many films, comics, video games, and even songs about him. The historical Dracula, whose name means son of the dragon, was involved in military campaigns, but whether or not he was as bad of a guy as he has been made out to be by pop culture is debatable, to say the least. And then in 1987, a man was kidnapped in San Francisco and held for hours while his abductor drank his blood. In 1992, a Russian man confessed to slaying 55 people and consuming their blood. In 1997, 5 people were arrested after attacking a man. My dog is driving me crazy, guys. In 1997, 5 people were arrested after attacking a man with razor blades, claiming to be vamps needing to feed. In 1998, a San Francisco man injured 3 and killed a 4th by slashing their necks. He claimed to be a 2,000-year-old vampire. And in 2000, a pair of teens claiming to be vampires were arrested after attempting to kill a man by stabbing him in the neck. So yeah, there's that. Hope everybody has a good day.